Hello and welcome to the most hated show in the black corner of the internet. I'm your host, the whiteologist, Mr. Blows Your Minds, and this is Black Minds News. Black Minds News channel is to report, articulate, insinuate, uncode, investigate, unveil, decode, spread the news, whether by news, video, websites, or quotes from publications. As I articulate these information, I accept the creator of the universe, be here, heart, soul, mind, and spirit, because why? The truth don't need no partner. As a descendant of the greatest people who created this land that we call the United States, we, the foundational blacks of this land, historical, biological ties, lineage, and the people of, we give honor to our ancestors. You know what my motto of this show is? I'm never going to tell you what I heard. I'm only going to tell you what I know. Okay, date again is August 8, 2019. What if I told you that you as a BADOS, which is a Black American descendant of slaves, some say Black African descendant of slave, others say ADOS, American descendant of slave, right? What if I said that if you who can trace your lineage in this land and get a chance to go back to a physical, tangible place that our ancestors was there, would you, as the bloodline tie, go back to a place based on the history that you know, the anguish, the emotions, the heartbreaks? Would you, as a person in 2019, traverse and go back as like in a time machine to where your ancestors are said to have been placed? And if it would, and if you could, would you? Well, this particular story here is talking about some descendants who could trace their ancestors of this land to two African slaves that go back to North Carolina. Well, stay tuned as I bring out this article. Stay tuned for this broadcast. Hey, how's y'all doing again? This is your host, Mr. Blows Your Minds. Today's date is August 8, 2019. First and foremost, I want to say what's good to my subscribers, old and new. What's good, fam? Welcome to another Black Minds News Report. Passerbys, if you should happen to go and was searching on your search engine and somehow led you over here to the most hated show on the black corner internet, is hidden, tucked, stuffed away. They even now give me notification that somehow they can't do the readings of my counts. Somehow it's been jumbled up. Again, I don't get that kind of traffic. Maybe I'm getting it and maybe they just trying to find a way to suppress it, right? You tell me. But again, welcome to the most hated show on the black corner of the internet. We've been around for 7 years. Used to get 275,000 views, 50,000, 30,000, 20,000. Now we can't get past 100. Yet we almost at 3,000. We've been that for over several years now. People come and then they come and take them away. But anyway, that's just how it is, right? So, welcome over here. Go through the aisle, see something you might like. Go down our library. If you should see something that might make you feel some kind of way, remember that the motto of the show is the truth don't need no partner. Now, let's get into this here, right? I seen this article here, and I was kind of like, well, you know, as I said in the intro there, right? If you had the opportunity to be able to go back that somebody had preserved, right? They somehow preserved and made it a historical site. And they said this is the place where your ancestors was. And then you decide that you and all those who again going through finding and tracing your family roots decide that this might be a place that we all come to understand that this is where we came from. Why don't we do a return back to the plantation of where it all began? Now, some of us will feel different. Some of us will be like, no way. You understand? I don't want to feel that. I don't want to know that. Others want to experience and have what they would say, a spiritual encounter. Maybe something can trigger something, bring you back. You ever heard the brother, you ever seen the movie or the series The Wire? The brother that played Omar, right? His name is Michael something. I can't think of his last name off the top. But he was doing a particular movie that had a particular scene that was kind of like taking you in historically back into that particular time. And because of the ambiance of the scene, the realness of what was taking place, something inside the brother triggered, opened up, and he became uncontrollably screaming, yelling, couldn't stop, went on for several, maybe minutes, that he had to be consoled, right? Something triggered in him of the experience that brought that up out of him. So you can understand that some people who would not want to have the encounter of that. That's why some people don't like that Mr. Blows Your Mind does what he do on the regular, which is basically talking about the discriminations, the racial elements, all those things that are just a part of our everyday experience as we here in the United States. And some people would better for it to be in the past than to have it reoccurring in my face. So for those who, again, are curious to know, inquisitive to know, so if you could do what these people here decide to do, so let me show you something. Let me give you some insight of some of this here, right? So again, it talks about there's the descendants of 2 African slaves. They're going to spend the night inside a reconstructed North Carolina slave cabin. Now again, descendants of 2 African slaves who were brought here. The descendants of them are going to have a reunion back to the place that, according to what the documents had said, to a place that they said actually is reconstructed. Not all of it, just this particular part. And this is where they're going to congregate. Now, accordingly, this is going to happen up in North Carolina. It's a plantation called the SOMERSET place. Some of you may have known, maybe you may have never heard of that before, right? So SOMERSET is like, again, like I said, it's a plantation. It's a former plantation. I don't know if anything is anything former these days, but it was in Crestwell, Washington County, North Carolina. It's along the northern shores of Lake Phelps, and now a state historical site that belongs to the North Carolina Department of Natural and Cultural Resources. SOMERSET Place operates as a plantation from 1785 until about 1865. Before the end of the Civil War, SOMERSET Place had become one of the Upper South largest plantations. In 1969, SOMERSET Place was designated as a state historical site. 1986, descendants of African American slaves, ADOS, BADOS, from Somerset Place planned a gathering known as the Somerset Homecoming. The event inspired a book titled Somerset Homecoming, written by a property former manager and who retired back in 2008. Says visitors can tour the 1830 period Plantation House, and this is where we're going to get into this here. So I just gave you a little bit of background about what it is called the Somerset Plantation. Now again, this is in North Carolina, and what these families, that is about 40 descendants that supposedly come from 2 people who they traced. The names was Kofi and Sally. And they're going to take, there's about 40 descendants that come originally from Kofi and Sally. And they're going to have a reunion at this Somerset Plantation that has been now historically considered a historical site. Again, this is Crestwell, North Carolina. Now, they said 6 family members are going to stay out of the 40, are going to stay overnight on the grounds. So they asked one of the individuals there, and I think one of the name was Mina Wilson. She's about 57, come from California. And she said she believes that she thinks it will be a deeply spiritual experience. I think we'll be talking and communicating with the energies there, right? So we see that this individual here is going to go for an experience of spiritual, trying to reconnect with maybe that she believes that the energy of her ancestors still dwells in this place. Now, again, remember, this is reconstructed, right? They say everything else still there. The White House is the main house, is still there, and everything else attached. But somehow the slave quarters had to be reconstructed and redone. They were not the same. And they said, well, when we did it with the same wood they did and the same furnitures that would be identical. Well, it's going to be everything, but not that. Well, I wonder why that is so. How did everything else seem to preserve, but that which the energy would have been in, that had to be reconstructed. Now think about that, right? So they say that this will be the first time that descendants of slaves will spend the night in a former plantation. Let me say that again. They said this will be the first time in the history that descendants of slaves, DOS, ADOS, and BADOS, will spend night in a former plantations. So again, this may be the beginning of opening up something. Again, what we heard the word already is tourism, right? So somebody might be thinking of the way that we can make some money, right? Now again, some people will look at this as a good thing, and others will see it in another way, right? Just depending on you and your taste and how you feel, right? Now, according to the history there, it said about 80 slaves have been brought here to this Crestwell. According, they say, from West Africa. Everything is West Africa, West Africa, West Africa. But they, again, when they tell you that the 10 odd Negroes came on a Dutch ship, Dutch was not in West Africa. The Dutch was in the East. Let me say that to you one more time. You know, they said that 80 slaves was brought to this Crestwell from, they say, from the coast of West Africa. Now, that might be true about this particular situation. But when they tell you about 1619 in Virginia and the 10 odd Negroes, they're on a Dutch ship. Now, again, if you kind of like me, the whiteologist, and you kind of read these kind of things, you kind of know that the merchants all had specific areas that they had charters to, that they can work according to what their charter they was given. And once you start recognizing where these ships are coming from, then you know the ports and the areas that they come from. Then they can't tell you everybody come from the West. Now, I know everybody want to say that, and there's a reason for that, right? But again, those were the ports that they transported. But that don't mean that everybody they came from there. So 80 were brought here. And they said in 1786, what happened was they decided that they needed some slaves, right? Now let's get into this whole thing, this Lake Phillips, or Lake Phelps is what they call it, right? Now, again, accordingly, Lake Phelps is named after Josiah Phelps. He was the first white man to enter his water. Now, you know, they hold this thing about discovery and exploring, right? Don't matter about nobody else being there. If it's the first white man that came there, he gets to claim it, right? And so what we get is that Phelps and another colonial explorer named Benjamin Tarkington, they say they were searching through what was known as the Great Eastern Dismal or the Great Alligator Dismal, 1755. Now, again, that would have been earlier than it was according to when they started in 86. So that's about almost 31 years prior. Now, say Phelps and Tarkington were part of a group of hunters, right? You know, like we did the one with the woman that do the black giraffe that tastes delicious. Remember her? Hunters, right? Hunters, right? So they were in there looking in the swamps, and they were searching for game and farmland. I don't know what farmland you were seeing was swamp. Now the game part, I'm not sure. Again, looking for alligators, right? But this group between this Tarkington and this Phelps, they got discouraged. And they wanted to leave because, again, what they were seeking for, they couldn't find. So according to the story, it says that Tarkington scaled of one of the many trees. I don't know how he scaled all of them, but he got on the trees, and he spotted a lake short distance away. Now, Phelps went ahead and ran into the water. As the first in the water, he was given the honor of naming the lake. Now, look how they say that, right? No, it's because, okay, now, he don't get the credit because he's seen it. Well, Phelps get it because he got there first. Now, if that's the case of how history goes, then how is it that if you came to a place and people were already there, how did you get to say you explored and you founded a land that people were already on? But again, our whole problem is we can't rationalize the concept of the psychology of most of these individuals. Because the way that they rationale, because again, they got to dehumanize you to make it so that you was just kind of the wildlife there. And then we talk about in the sense of how they classify themselves as humans, man really, but the human was color man. But anyway, so with that being said, that this is how this comes in. Now, again, you got this Tarkington and you got this Phelps, right? This is how you going to get this. Now, I said, well, Mr. Blame, what are you talking about this Lake Phelps? What does that got to do with it? Because again, this is going to be the origins of how they're starting up. They're going to get this plantation, what you call it SOMERSET plantation, right? So again, you know, they brought about 80 slaves there in 1786 to clear out the swamps for the plantation. Now again, they said this was about 2 years of back-breaking work. 2 years of back-breaking work. They had to dig 6 miles, 20 feet wide. They made this a transportation canal connecting this Lake Phillips, right, to this Scuppermong River. So what they did is they took the slaves, our ancestors, and made them dig a canal. 2 years back breaking, dealing with mosquitoes, snakes, exhaustions. They don't know where they at. They don't know how they got here. You know, they showed in Amistad, they had those on the continent clubbing them, putting them in the net and taking them, and you waking up and you on a boat. And you know what I'm saying? That happens, right? And so the conditions, right? Here they was, 2 years back breaking. Now again, they said that there was a book that was written by an ex-overseer who wrote about that the slaves would drown themselves to escape bondage. They said others just died from the work. Okay? Of the original 80 that I told you that originally came, they said according to by the time they was doing the inventory in 1803, they said only 15 were identified according to the genealogical records. So from 1786 to 1803, was that 14 and 3, that's 17 years. 17 years, but he said it was eating up a lot of people to do some work that is just unfathomable in your mind when you think about it. A swamp, they digging and they give you the dimensions and they tell you, right? 6 miles, 20 feet wide. And here it is, the Descendants wants to go back to the area. So they said in 1865, Somerset expanded to include thousands of acres of crop. Now, okay, you done built this connecting, again, because you're getting the credit for you seen the lakes, and now you connecting what you was on into this other one. So all this is your territory. And that also did that. You included, now you done made more acreage of crops and sawmills. By this time in 1786, you got over 200 slaves. According they said, but in 1830, the original house, again, like the White House, the main house is still sitting there to this day. But somehow, they had to reconstruct the slave quarter. It didn't stand. So here it is, these Descendants are going back to something that's been recreated. Maybe it was destroyed for a reason. Or maybe they did not want it to stand because, again, the energies, the spirits. Because, again, I remember a video I had seen about the old slave house in Illinois. And if you should take the time and get the video, go check that video out. They talked about how a lot of times there was energies and things that was happening in there because, again, the grueling salt work that was done in those Illinois plantations at that time. Matter of fact, this is where they would take the runaways and before they transported them back when they came across, because you know they tell you about going to freedom. They want to tell you that in the North they didn't have slaves, right? So, you know, let me show you how that's looking there, because I give you like you're seeing that. So let me show you this one as well, right? And show the summer plantation, the view that they got. All right, that's the view they showing, right? And so you see that the family members who are part of a larger group of 18 people stand on the grounds. They said they call it the Slave Dwelling Project, right? It was Joseph McGill who began the project, and it was supposed to be emphasizing the history of slaves and stay overnight in slave dwellings about 200 times. But he said that was him staying there because he done had this project going for some time. But this would be the first time where it was just strictly Descendants who we know through the tracing of the genealogy that these are pure descendants of at least 2 of the slaves that we know that we have here. And so in making that connection, they said it's rare that African Americans make those connections to place where their ancestors were enslaved, right? So this could be transformational, this could be spiritual, and it can also have another effect as well. And so a lot of family are having a lot of anxieties visiting the place where their ancestors were enslaved. Because again, as I told you, remember the brother from The Wire, something triggered in him and he got to a place where he couldn't get out of it. And he had to go through it. And it was not a great experience. You might be able to find that video if you look. It's Michael something. Somebody might know what his name. The brother name was Michael. Again, the brother that played Omar in The Wire. He did some particular movie and he talks about this experience. So anybody interested in it, go check that out. So the question becomes, they're saying this is 6 generations between Coffee and Sally. And based on this experience, this journey that they say, they want to see what it felt like. Again, I don't think you could ever take a night over hundreds of years, and just me just giving you that background as to the back-breaking work, what they did. Many of them said, I'm not doing this. They off themselves, died from the extraneous overworked, right? And the survivors of that, many of us are those. You understand? So never look at us as we're some weak-ass people. People say all this stuff to try to downplay us and make us seem like we are these weak-ass, soft, jelly type, no-brain type of people. But if you had to put them in the conditions that we come from, the ancestors and the bloodlines that we come from, where would you be? You understand? So, again, many people will look at this and might be appalled at it. Some people may take this and say, I wish I could find where mine came from. Regardless of how you look at it, this family here is taking it and to make it, again, all of them, only several of them. Again, it's like in every family. You're not going to have everybody who's conscious. Some people want to be stuck and want to stay under, we sick boss, right? We gonna have some of them, and some of them pray for a win so we can burn this shit down. You're going to have some of them too, right? So, we always kind of split up. But that's just the way it is. So just imagine you see that right there, and that's just that part. They built that too. They cut down all that and they built them roads. And now this is polished. This is modernized. We're talking about when it originally was like that, right? So when people look at us, it's an envy and jealousy. They don't have that history. The history that they do is bloodshed and killing and stealing. But when you're talking about building, when you're talking about back-breaking, sweat, bone, tears, terror, all that is embodied in us. Huh? They said that, in that Willie Lynch letter says something to the fact that, a nigger and a horse is not good in its natural state. It's not good for economics. So you have to break the nigger like you break the horse for good economics. See, because in your natural state, can you really compete with something of that magnitude, what that come from that? You know how they say they match people up accordingly, like they have, matter of fact, I remember one time, for those who might have been around, remember when Jimmy the Greek was talking about athletes, football, remember that? And he was talking about, the breeding of what we did in slavery is what made the black American today the way he is today, because the way we bred him. And a lot of people was upset about when he said that, right? Well, I don't know, man. You understand? I'm going to put it like this. It was already known this was going to happen before there was even you. And it was just a formation to get, because again, this is going to be the chosen people that the Creator was going to use to show his miracle and who he is through them. And it's about that time. You understand what I'm saying? It's coming to the fruition of you seeing it. You understand? So everybody kind of feeling it, and then there are probably people angry at us, but be glad that you were chosen to be in that bloodline of these people here who created this place that they want to say great, but when it comes down to what you really did and what you put in, you did nothing but watch. You supervised, you managed. You took the money from it and you tell us how much great you are, but you couldn't have did it if we didn't do it. So this is Black Minds News. Just wanted to tell you that there was some DOS, some ADOS decided that they was going to go ahead and do something that some of us might want to do, some of us other may not want to do. Just depending on how you built. Didn't have no video for you on it. So again, I want to thank everybody who came over here and checked this out. And again, for you coming over here and patronize on the channel, you know what I need you to do, right? I need you to check out my little, my little break in here, right? And then you think about it while you seeing this, and then I'll come back after that, right? So check this out and be right back. I'll check this out. Let's see if it's gonna work right first. Let's see. Always some little hesitation going on here, right? Yeah, okay, let's see. Let's check this out and be right back, y'all. All right. Once again, I want to thank everybody for who participated and listened to the Black MINDZ News Report. Thank you for today. Again, August 8, 2019. And again, when you see one another, get that universal nod. What's good, brother? What's good, sister? Quit out taking all that hate out of there. Again, we in this game together. We got a uniform that you can't take off. Now, again, it's about your mindset. You can have a different uniform in the mind, but you can't have one on the exterior. Now, that right there lets you tell you something about yourself. But again, you know, it's all about unification, longevity, prosperity, love, peace. So, y'all, because something is in the works. The revealing is coming. Other people got their idea. But again, remember, you might have managed, you might have supervised, but you weren't built to do the building. So something said about the corner that the builders rejected. But it's the cornerstone that makes it all happen. So what happens when you start rejecting that? And it's the foundation of what you build. So only matter of time, y'all, this about to crumble. Again, I'm your host, Mr. Blows Your Mind. Stay tuned for the next show. And I should have been already done had this going in, right? I should have been already doing that, but I'm over here bullying, right? So to the next show, y'all. I want y'all to stay up. Peace, love, soul, and all that good stuff. Until the next show, y'all. Love, peace, soul.